Hello everyone and welcome back to the back nine of the round one here at Maine State Championships. This is a Disc Golf Pro Tour Silver Series, and I'm joined here in the box by Thomas Gilbert.
A lot of action there on the front nine. We got a whole small straight of scores, 4-3, 2-1 under par. Kind of the spread that you might not expect from this lead card or from this feature card. But as I said before, there's lots of scoreable holes here on the back nine.
Yeah, it's a very interesting course because there's a lot of birdieable holes, but all of them are very tricky birdies. None of them are necessarily just handed to you. So the spread of scores that we see on the front is just pretty common. You see Ezra through the front nine, 5 down, pretty hot. Alec and Matthew both right behind him, and then a handful of scores at 3 and 2 under. And this is an interesting back nine with how the woods holes play. We move into some of the harder holes,
Yes.
but all are still birdieable.
There's a few holes that are just very, very hard par threes that a 3 is honestly a great score, and then some holes that you really, really want to get the birdie on as well.
Yes, definitely. See some of the scores here from earlier in the day. And moving on to hole number 10. This is a really tricky par 4. The tee shot is very demanding. You have to throw very high power, kind of stand up hyzer, preferably down this right gap with a soft fade. Landing anywhere on these cross section of roads will set you up in great position to have a shot into the green, which is kind of, there's 2 alleys. There's this left side and a right side, and neither of them feel great to park it necessarily. They're both very uncomfortable, and then this green you're just trying to get a look at.
Yeah, and you saw those 2 arrows. Those are not Mandos. Those are just kind of pointing in the direction of the basket, and honestly they are kind of a good aiming point, because if you throw your upshot in between those 2, you usually can find yourself in a decent look on the green. Oh gee, it looks like he's crushing a fairway driver. Hits that last tree. He's not happy with that. He wants to get far up there.
Casey going a little bit more flex line. That is his more natural release. He just didn't quite commit to it. But
Whoa.
Wow, that had a great reaction off the tree, and he's in pretty much perfect position there for the approach now.
This looks like the more intended line if that just keeps holding straight. Catches the last rock, but that was perfectly thrown down the fairway. Just a little bit extra height needed.
Simon might be able to catch this early gap.
Oh yeah.
And he does. He's quite a bit left of the fairway, but there is actually a third line over there that is pretty open. You see Garrett actually has it as well. And he just pulls it a little bit. He'll have a long look at the basket from there. Probably another Sonic.
This looks really nice. His misses all these trees. Oh yeah.
That's an
Great
incredible
approach.
shot.
You see going with this bread and butter forehand tactic.
Oh, geez.
Looks like he turned it a little bit. Oh no. He just knows
Yeah.
that disc very well.
Yeah.
Looked to be a little turned out of his hand, but right, finds a circle.
Simon throwing a P2, an awkward hyzer that ends up perfect. Kind of an unconventional line there. Garrett. Wow. Almost cashes it in.
Great run there. And I like these kind of par 4s where it's not incredibly punishing, but it definitely causes you to have to throw a great approach. There's lots of little lines that you can kind of navigate through and usually get yourself a putt from almost anywhere, but it makes you have to focus.
Simon taking a great birdie after kind of being out of position off the tee shot a little bit. Tyler also with that great second shot, absolutely parked for birdie. And this hole surprisingly averaged just barely under par, which I was expecting it to average quite a bit over just because of the difficulty of the tee shot. And speaking of difficulty of tee shots, this hole is extremely demanding. It's a par 3, 358 feet. The intended line is through this gap the drone is flying, and then you're trying to just skip as far left as you can. Really, the best you can do is just somewhere around this rock wall.
Yeah, really tricky hole. A lot of people try to play the skip shot, and there is an inside gap that I saw a few people go for, but that is super dangerous. This looks perfect from Casey. He needs to get a big skip. Oh,
That'll work.
Man. And Casey was going with a little bit more flip up, throwing that DD3 again, trying to push more to the backside of the green, not play as much skip, trying to air it a little bit longer. And Tyler going for a similar play, really high. Needs to miss that tree.
all right.
That's a great shot. That's a long putt.
That is going to be one of the closer shots you probably see on the day, even though it's probably left him with about an 80-footer. So I'm going
this
super knife hyzer.
that could be great.
Oh.
Oh no.
Wow.
He's caught that rock or tree root there. And he's still going to have a putt, but that drive looked incredible. Garrett just not quite getting the push on it and the height that he wanted. And it doesn't feel like Garrett needs any other approach disc in his bag besides that Sonic. He throws it on pretty much every single hole.
Casey going with the jump putt MD.
Oh, this looks great.
Oh, right there on line.
Yeah, just a little bit short. He should be fine with that. Simon from a similar distance, just a little bit more left. Man, almost cashes it in. Oh, and this is kind of unfortunate, Tyler, having this little bit of an Annie run, which we did see him do on the other hole, so he looks like to be pretty comfortable with that. Just a little bit off there.
Yeah. And this hole with that difficult tee shot actually had 0 birdies on the day.
Yeah, not something you see very often. It averaged 0.37 strokes over par. So not necessarily something that people are getting in a ton of trouble
Yeah.
and taking big numbers on, but definitely not a whole lot of people are getting looks at it.
Here we are on hole number 12. Another tricky par 3 at 393 feet. You want to play this left side fairway almost the entire way, and I think a backhand anhyzer is usually the shot that you would go with just because it opens up this line a bit more. As you see, really tricky late gap with all these little trees guarding the basket. Forehand just kind of pushes too straight on this hole unless you can get a really good skip.
Yeah, the last quarter of the hole really seems to finish much straighter than it looks from the tee. From the tee, it feels like you need to have something hold right the whole time. But really, if you do play that straighter shot with fade like Casey's did, wow, long of the basket.
That's fantastic.
That's incredible. But you really do need that straighter bit of finish at the end of the flight to get a look at it. That just has a little bit too early of a turn. Needs to actually get a kick now. Wow.
Sneaks through quite a bit of it.
Yeah, just get through everything, and he'll have a circle 2 look at it. That's the line I like better. Simon looked to be trying to go over that branch, but just left it a little bit low. I think that having it on a sharper angle out of your hand then allows it to fight out a little bit more up by the basket. I heard Garrett was playing roller on this hole, which I really like.
I wish I had tried this play in practice. Still landed it pretty good.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, incredible shot there.
Inside circle.
Definitely need a more understable disc for that roller line. Simon just throwing his Sky God, probably trying to ring it up. Oh, great line, just a little bit high. I'll have a little bit of work left.
A little bit right there for Tyler's run. And Garrett right on the circle's line. See if you can cash this putt.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Great, too.
And that's another bonus birdie that he has already gotten this round. Hole 8 he got as well earlier. Casey looking to join him. Just a little bit low. This is definitely a bonus birdie. I believe only 4 people got it on the day. Joshua Seeley, myself, Garrett, and Christopher Parks.
Yeah, and a crazy stat on this hole. Only 2% of the field was circle 1 in regulation.
Yeah, I was about 45 feet long, kind of just behind Casey. It looks like everyone can clean up their pars pretty well. Here we have a check-in. I'm sneaking up there into the leaderboard, get that Canada flag up on there. And a bunch of people starting to finish their rounds. Looks like 5 under, 6 under pars, pretty good.
Moving into hole number 13. This is another tricky par 3, only 277 feet. Very common theme for this course. These short holes that are also blind. This one going up and over this hill once again, and then finishing down to the right. Most players will choose this gap that the drone is flying, either with a pretty straight forehand with a soft finish or the turnover backhand. This is one you really have to trust your angle and line and just commit to it, because you do have like no judge about where the basket is.
And also a little fun fact about this hole is that this tree stump here on the left that Garrett goes over right there, that was actually an enormous tree that had been cut down pretty recently and just had opened up that line. So a lot of the locals were taking this hyzer gap on the right.
I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, all those new benches on the course, those are all made from that tree.
Wow. See Casey with a base plastic Sensei, just turning it a little bit too early, getting that kick out to the left side. We saw Garrett with a really good rock 3 shot into inside circle 1. Tyler lining up that hyzer line. That hyzer line is wow. Another great reaction off the tree.
Yeah.
But that hyzer line is so tricky because you really need it to be pretty steep out of your hand because of this tree in the middle, and then let it flip up. And Simon just
Turns it a little bit early.
you can tell he's just a little bit off on his release point right now. Not quite being able to hit the gaps he wants to.
And just jump putts up into the circle. Casey with his P2. Lining this up as if he's going to run it. See how good of a bait he gives it.
Great line, just a little bit short.
It's a little bit soft out of his hand on that downhill run. See, he's frustrated with that attempt. See if Garrett can get another birdie. Oh yeah.
Great putt.
This is a pretty easy hole, but it's a great hole to get just being blind, like you said.
Yeah, the hole averaged right about at par, which is a little bit surprising. Would have thought it would have averaged more under par, but with the blind shot and kind of the tricky line. Tyler also cleaning up a par.
Ever been in a balloon before?
It's our first time.
Hey.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the landing!
But how will we...
The landing! Your offer's been accepted. Ever bought a house before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the closing.
But how will we...
The closing!
Hole 14 is a 291-foot par 3. This really plays well for the forehand, and there's a bit of a hillside sloping from right to left, so forehand will check into that a bit better. But it is a little bit tough to read where the basket is because this hillside here kind of drops off really steep as you reach the circle's edge. So it can be a little bit tough to read whether that'll stick there or not.
Yeah, a lot of people were getting a little bit short and getting these skip rolls down the hill to well outside the circle long. Garrett, not quite long enough to get that, so he's going to have a pretty scary putt down the hill. See, Casey choosing the tactic, and I like this with the baseline plastic because it does help it check up down on that kind of hard-packed hill.
Oh, geez, what are you doing?
And
Oh, no.
Oh, that's
Just-
like the worst thing possible.
he knows that this is one that plays so well to his game, so not having a look on it is very disappointing. Is that zone again, it looks like? Oh, wow. That
Wow.
flips up a lot.
Yeah. It's not terrible though. Have a uphill look from circle's edge. Simon played this shot really well in practice. He goes super high turnover with the P1X.
He needs to sit down.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Should be fine.
Oh, my God. Come on. Hook up. Jeez.
And we did have a little bit of a right to left wind from the tee on this hole that you couldn't quite feel, which was pushing all those shots more to the long left side. You see Garrett just laying up, especially with that wind. And it made this putt very tricky. This putt was a head left to right wind. And couldn't quite tell if it was going to drop or lift, and it looked to lift a little bit there for Tyler.
And with a nice just spin putt in the center of the chains. He's really good at that putt when he is on. Just cuts through any wind on the fairway at all. Looks like you have the rest of the card here just to clean up their pars. And here we're coming down the stretch with 13 being a relatively gettable par 3 and this one being almost a must get. And the rest of the holes kind of playing almost the same way. You really want to kind of catch this late round hot streak.
Yes, definitely. And speaking of hot streak, this is one that can definitely boost that. This is a par 4, 695 feet. The big throwers can try to bite off a little bit more going over the trees at this corner, possibly getting a 2-look, but really just giving yourself an easier approach into the green. But most players are going to be playing up onto the plateau on the left or somewhere on that hillside, leaving overstable mid or overstable driver into this green. And this one did have a right to left wind. Once again, that you couldn't quite feel from the tee. It didn't come into play until about halfway up the fairway. And that is low right out of his hand.
Come on, get over the trees.
Wow.
That is very fortunate for Simon.
Super fortunate. If he went in there, he's bringing 5 into play immediately.
This seems like a shot made for Garrett. Throws super high, turning it over those trees. Oh, wow, this is pushing so far.
Didn't quite get the turn it looks like he wanted. This could be in the road. Wow.
Yeah, and I saw this shot. I was on
my gosh.
hole 16's tee, and that was a smash. I think it might have gone over the road if it didn't hit those trees.
It hit that tree like 20 feet up in the air at the 700-foot mark.
Yeah. Great shot there.
You see Casey playing the more traditional line, just up onto the plateau, actually just long of the plateau. Gonna have an easy hyzer approach into the green.
A nice safe shot there from Tyler, playing it right down that left side of the fairway,
Right?
and that is in a great spot as well.
Watch out for that.
Yeah, this is really a hole where the distance throwers can kind of showcase that distance. Simon trying to get over those trees, but not quite. And Garrett, that's a super impressive drive.
This is Casey with a P2 on the hyzer line, putting it just parked. It'll be a drop in 3. Similar shot from Tyler, just a little bit long, but also should have a drop in 3.
Simon probably trying to give this a run with his Sky God. It's up a little high, and that wind just kind of carries it just to the left side of that basket. Garrett,
This is so close.
man, kind of unfortunate to have such strong wind at this time in the round.
Yeah, traditionally he would probably choose a Sonic from this distance. He has to go AVRX3.
This
And
looks like
that's-
he's laying it up.
Yeah, smart play. Take
Yeah.
the easy 3, no stress. Oh, just a little bit short there.
Good cleanup there for Casey. Nice birdie.
There you go. Good putt, Tyler.
Tyler as well, dropping in the birdie. Giving the basket some love.
Tap in for Garrett after that booming drive. Simon gonna clean up the unfortunate par.
Checking back in, Joshua Seeley, I did play with him, shooting 8 down pretty hot early. See yourself up there with 7 down through 15. Definitely trying to make a push for that lead. And then once again, a handful of people sitting around that 6 or 5 down mark. As we move into hole number 16, this one is 216 feet and is just sitting right there in front of you. It feels like you should ace run it, but really it's trying to bait you in. You're trying to play kind of a bump and run into this hillside, trying to get somewhere near the basket. If you air it over that hillside, you're going to be 70 feet long minimum.
Garrett looking just play like a soft hyzer. So he's really trying to take a lot of power off.
It needs to sit.
Oh, he just catches that back, and you see how quick that rolls.
Man, there's no chance of it sticking on the backside of this green.
Casey going that tactic.
And this is a play I really like. It lines up a little bit better to jam it down into the hillside. He takes a little bit of a higher line, but that looks to be...
Oh, and it's rolling back.
Wow.
Okay, and that's a good sit, actually. There is OB. That entire kind of marshy area that you can see is lined with out of bounds. So good thing for him to curl up there like he did.
And he knows it right out of his hand. He did not commit to that shot.
That's going to roll down the backside as well.
And that's just going to be a layup from there. Simon goes a more understable disc on hyzer, and he threw that way up in the air, and same fate as Garrett, that roll away.
Man, no one really on this card putting it anywhere close. Like, you really want to play that front hill check. It looks like they all just kind of aired it a little bit high.
And that could have gotten away as well if he caught that hillside again. Garrett just choosing the layup, which is much smarter. Ooh, Tyler had a little high gap, it looked like. Trying to possibly give that one a bid.
I'm a little bit high. That's kind of the result you can get if you run that putt.
Casey, the only one inside the circle on this hole after that unfortunate roll away. Oh, and
no.
he cannot. Oh, my gosh.
This is worst case scenario for Casey. That is devastating. Sit. Okay. At least that one sits down for him. That's going to be an unfortunate bogey. Man, this hole really getting this feature card here.
Yeah, this was one of the easier holes we played on the day. Averaged quite a bit under par. Had 39% of the field grabbing birdies on it. Definitely not one you want to have a bogey on. And hole number 17. This hole is another one of those really tricky par threes. I think it plays a little bit longer than the number that is listed at 337. I think it probably plays closer to maybe 370. With this slight turnover through the gap, and then you have to miss so many trees.
Yeah.
And then even after you miss all those trees, once you're on the ground, you have all these rocks that you have to miss. It's a really tricky one to get a look at. Not a whole lot of players were getting looks at it on the day.
No, yeah, you probably want to throw something maybe like 7-speed or higher, I would say.
Yep.
Garrett looks to be going maybe.
I think that's a T-bird from Garrett.
Yeah.
Same one he's been throwing all day. And he knows right out of his
No.
hand.
Just turn that over out of his hand, and okay, it drops. Decent position, but it's gonna be tricky with that low ceiling. Also, the tee pad on this hole, it's a little bit shorter, kind of on that hill that we saw the basket on the last hole, so it doesn't have too much room behind the tee pad or in front of the tee pad, so it can make this run up a little bit extra tricky as well.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's
Going,
really good.
oh, just leaking it right with that CD2. That drops down. It's probably a similar spot to Garrett.
No, this is bad.
Oh, and
Oh,
Simon goes
wow.
over.
This is not a play I've seen him do before. Let's see where this ends up.
Thanks.
Hard to tell where that landed exactly, but seems to have caught the trees and fallen down short.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous line. Those trees are very tall.
Nice.
Garrett catching one of the last trees to miss. He's going to have a probably just outside circle look for his par.
Oh geez.
Casey with the tactic forehand. Man, another kiss off the tree.
It's going to leave him probably in, again, similar spot to Garrett. Here is where Simon ended up. I don't even know what part of the hole this is. Okay, so it looks to be super right side.
Yep.
That's actually a great approach there from Simon.
Yeah, really well done. As we see Tyler's approach, sneaking a little bit long. Got to give a quick shout out to Chris Clemens, snagging the only 2 on the day on this hole. He was about 40 feet right of the pin with a defender and then hit the putt. This is a hole that 0% of the field was circle 1 in regulation.
Wow. Yeah. Shows you how tricky this hole is. Simon with a great putt from circle's edge to save his par. Oh, no.
Sit down. Wow, okay.
That's disappointing cut through there from Garrett.
Yep, a little bit too right side on the hyzer. Can't really expect that one to stick high percentage of the time. Good par cleanup there from Tyler.
Casey cleaning up his bogey. He moves to 3 under after the bogey last 2 holes. Here we are on hole 18, the final hole, a 505-foot par 4. You want to just hit this gap, kind of going left of this tree with the arrow. Then it comes out to this big wide open field where you kind of have any kind of shot you'd like. We had a strong left to right wind that was pushing all the discs, but kind of choice of the player really, what kind of shot you want to throw in this green. Relatively flat, and you really want to get this birdie to finish out your round.
Yeah, and like you were saying, this is a must get, it feels like, to finish your round. This is one you're counting on to have. All the players are throwing the same tee shot off the tee, really trying to cut early and just get really as left as you can really early. And Simon going higher, wider.
Wow. This guy missed this street. Catches some of the high branches there. Garrett going with his Wraith. Looks like he's okay, playing the soft hyzer, trying to skip it up the hill. That's beautifully done there. He's gonna be on the flat, having a nice approach there.
Casey going with his DD3.
Never done that before.
That should be fine. I'd assume probably a forehand approach from there.
I'm going super spike hyzer. Oh, really well done there.
Yeah, perfect shot. Tyler also electing for the hyzer. And you can see it really get dropped there because of that left to right wind. Really well judged. Should have a 3 to end his day as well.
Casey going with the Ft3 forehand.
This is one he's going to have to play really wide.
Looks like he
Oh
gosh.
my
I
gosh.
thought I had the chance, but I didn't.
Almost
think it was actually
fireworks for the end of the round there for Casey. Banging it off the front rim of the basket.
See Garrett, even from the short distance, going with that Firebird, skipping it up, and
That's a tap in.
another drop in 3.
You can see there, everyone inside circle. Oh no,
Oh, Casey.
that's
He's not happy about that.
birdie there from Simon, finishing off the day at 3 under par.
Yeah, not the day he was looking for. You could just see he was off a little bit the whole entire day. Tyler at 4 down, or 5 down, excuse me. That's a solid round. Great position moving into the weekend. Casey also with the 3 down. He's not happy with that. Definitely something he can build on though. And Garrett shooting 7 down, putting him in great position. I think he's tied for 3rd currently. And you can see, like we mentioned, we have Garrett at 7 down, Tyler Grady at 5 down, Casey White at 3, as well as Simon at 3 down. Be sure to come back and check in for round 2 here at the Maine State Championships. Subscribe to GK Pro and leave us a like. And thank you all for tuning in.